People laughed when I said cartoons taught me English. But cartoons saved my life. No, seriously. Not a textbook. Not a school teacher. Not one of those boring grammar books with rules I couldn't understand. Just cartoons. Bright, silly, colorful cartoons that most people ignore. I didn't plan it. I didn't know it would work. All I knew was I wanted to speak English, but I was failing. Again and again. And then one day, something clicked. Let me tell you how it happened. I grew up in a small town, dusty roads, chickens in the street, neighbors who all knew each other. It was the kind of place where life moved slowly. English? That was something far away. Something for rich kids in the city or for movies on TV that nobody in my town could understand. But I wanted more. I don't know why. Maybe because I watched my father struggle to find work. Maybe because I saw foreign tourists walk past us like we were invisible. Maybe because deep inside, I knew I was meant for something bigger. I wanted to speak to the world. So I went to school, like everyone else. But English class was a nightmare. The teacher wrote grammar rules on the board, past participle, present continuous, and some other words that made no sense to me. I tried. I really tried. But every time I opened my mouth to speak English, the words died in my throat. My classmates laughed when I mispronounced things. Even the teacher rolled her eyes once when I said, "She go to market," instead of "she goes." I went home that day and cried into my pillow. I was 14 years old, and I wanted to give up. But that evening, something strange happened. I was flipping through TV channels, trying to forget everything, when I saw a pink cartoon pig dancing in a muddy puddle. It was Peppa Pig. She said something like, "I'm Peppa Pig." Snort. And her little brother said, "Dinosaur." I laughed. I didn't understand every word, but I understood enough to smile. The voices were simple. The words were clear. And for once, English didn't feel like a monster. It felt like a game. That night, I watched 5 episodes of Peppa Pig, then 10, then 20. The next day, I did the same. Something strange started happening. I began hearing English words in my head, even when the TV was off. "Good morning. Let's go to the playground." "I like chocolate cake." I started repeating after Peppa. At first, I whispered. Then I said it out loud. Then I acted out whole scenes in front of the mirror. My mother walked in once and found me saying "Bob, Bob, black sheep" with a British accent. She looked confused, then smiled and walked away. At school, I still couldn't write a perfect English sentence. But when I opened my mouth to speak, something had changed. I like, books," I said during English class. The class turned. The teacher blinked. "Yes," she said. "That's correct." It was a small sentence. But to me, it felt like standing on a mountain. From that day, cartoons became my secret weapon. I started watching Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob SquarePants, Tom and Jerry. Well, they didn't speak much, but the sound effects helped too, and later even Arthur and Word Girl. I made a rule, 1 hour cartoons every day. No subtitles, just ears. At first, I understood maybe 20% of what they said, then 30%, then 50%. I started hearing patterns. Cartoons use a lot of repetition. I don't know. "Let's go. Where is it?" These phrases came again and again. Soon, I didn't need to translate them in my head. I just knew. I kept a small notebook where I wrote new words. Sometimes I'd pause the show and rewind 10 times to understand a phrase. Sometimes I just let it play, trusting that my brain was learning, even if I didn't see it right away. And I kept speaking, out loud, in my room, in the kitchen, in the bathroom mirror. I became a little strange, but I didn't care, because something inside me was waking up. One day, my older cousin came over. He spoke some English because he worked in a hotel. He heard me say something like, "I don't like rainy days." He looked at me and said, "What? You just said that in English." I nodded. He laughed. "No way. You're lying. You didn't even study." I told him about the cartoons. He shook his head. "That's crazy. But I guess it's working." It was working. Slowly, the world opened up. I started watching short YouTube videos in English, kids' channels first, then beginner storybooks with audio. Then came music. I listened to simple songs. I printed out the lyrics. I sang with them. I didn't worry about being perfect. I just let the rhythm carry me. And every time I spoke a new word out loud, it felt like magic. But not everyone believed in me. Some classmates still laughed. "Cartoons," they said. "You think that's how people learn English? That's for babies." I smiled. I didn't argue. I just kept watching and listening and speaking. I made mistakes. Oh, so many. Once I said, "I am boring," when I meant I am bored. Another time I told my teacher, I cooked my mother instead of I cooked with my mother. She stared at me in horror. But you know what? I remembered those mistakes more than anything I learned in school. Because they were real. They were funny. They stuck in my brain. And every mistake meant I was trying. I wasn't scared anymore. A year passed. Then two. I no longer needed a dictionary every 5 minutes. I started thinking in English. Not all the time, but sometimes. When I wanted something from the store, I imagined asking in English. When I saw a stranger on the street, I thought, what would I say if they were American? Then came the biggest surprise. Our school had a speech contest. You had to speak in English for 3 minutes. My old self would have hidden under the desk. But this time I signed up. I wrote my speech. Practiced it. I practiced every night. Over and over. In my bedroom, in front of the mirror, holding a spoon like a microphone. I practiced until my throat was dry, until my voice cracked, until I could almost hear Peppa and Dora cheering for me in my head. The title of my speech was, "How Cartoons Changed My Life." It felt silly when I wrote it. I imagined the audience laughing, rolling their eyes, thinking I was making a joke. But I didn't care. This was my truth, and I was ready to tell it. The day of the contest came. My palms were sweating. I couldn't eat breakfast. My stomach felt like a washing machine. I kept whispering lines to myself. "Good morning. My name is Rafi. Today, I want to tell you a story." My friends wished me luck, but I barely heard them. When they called my name, my heart jumped so hard I thought it would break out my chest. I walked slowly to the front of the classroom. My legs were shaking. My hands trembled. I could feel 100 eyes staring at me. My teacher sat in the back. She gave me a small nod. That helped. A little. I took a deep breath, looked down at my paper, then looked up at the faces in front of me. And I said, "Good morning. My name is Rafi. Today, I want to tell you a story." My voice cracked on the first word, but I kept going. I told them everything. How I used to sit in the back of the class, silent, afraid to speak. How I failed English tests again and again. How I almost gave up. Then I told them about the night I found Peppa Pig on TV. How a pink cartoon pig and her little brother helped me say my first full sentence in English. I said, I didn't learn English from books. I learned from cartoons. Every day, one word at a time, one sentence at a time. I spoke slowly. I wasn't perfect. I paused when I forgot a word. I stumbled a little on longer sentences. But I didn't stop. Because this time, I wasn't just speaking English. I was speaking from my heart. I told them about all the mistakes I made. The time I said I cooked my mother instead of I cooked with my mother. The time I told someone I am boring when I meant I am bored. The class laughed. Not in a mean way, but because they understood. I smiled too. I told them how I practiced speaking in front of my mirror, how I repeated cartoon lines until I could say them in my sleep. I said, I didn't have a private tutor. I didn't go abroad. I just had cartoons. And I had a dream. I looked at the class, my heart beating like a drum. And then I said the final line of my speech, loud and clear. If a cartoon pig can change my life, maybe it can change yours too. Then silence. For a moment, I thought I had messed up. No one moved. No one clapped. I looked down, feeling the fear rise again. But then, someone clapped. Just one person. Then another. Then more. Suddenly, the whole room was clapping. Even a teacher stood up and smiled. My eyes filled with tears. Not because I had given the best speech, but because I had done it. I had stood in front of a crowd, spoken in English, shared my story, and they had listened. That day changed something deep inside me. I walked back to my seat, head held high. I wasn't the quiet kid anymore. I wasn't the one who hid in the back of the class. I wasn't the failure who couldn't speak a full sentence. I was the boy who learned English from cartoons. And for the first time in my life, I was proud of that. Weeks later, I made a decision. I opened my mom's old phone, downloaded a video recording app, and sat in front of a window for natural light. I pressed record. I said, "Hi, my name is Rafi. I learned English from cartoons. Here's how." I uploaded it to YouTube. I didn't expect anyone to watch, but someone did, then another person, and another. A few days later, I got my first comment. It said, "I thought I was the only one who learned English this way. Thank you." That message hit me like a wave. I realized I wasn't alone, so I kept making videos, telling stories, giving tips, helping others who felt stuck just like I had been. I wasn't an expert. I wasn't perfect, but I was real. I said, "You don't need a fancy school. You don't need perfect grammar. You just need to start. Start with something fun. Start with cartoons." Because that's where it all began for me. People still laugh when I tell them the truth. Cartoons. They ask, "You're joking, right?" I just smile and say yes. Cartoons. A pink pig, a yellow sponge, a little explorer with a backpack. They weren't just funny characters to me. They were my teachers. They didn't laugh at my accent. They didn't judge my mistakes. They repeated the same words until I got them. They spoke slowly, clearly, with heart. And in their simple, silly world, I found a doorway into a new life. They gave me more than just language. They gave me hope. They gave me confidence. They gave me a voice. Now, I use that voice every day to speak, to teach, to tell stories like this one. And I want to say this to you, the person watching, the person listening. Don't be afraid. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't worry if people laugh. Because your English journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It can start in a classroom or in a cartoon. It can start when you're scared or when you're lost. But what matters is that it starts. And it's yours. Yours to build, yours to believe in, and yours to finish one word at a time. So maybe your English isn't perfect. Maybe you still get nervous when you speak. Maybe people have laughed at your mistakes or told you you're not good enough. I understand that feeling because I've been there. But I want you to know something that took me years to learn. Mistakes don't mean failure. They mean progress. Every wrong sentence you say, every word you mispronounce, every moment you feel embarrassed, it's all part of the journey. It means you're trying, and trying is the bravest thing you can do. You're not stupid. You're not too late. You're learning a new language, and that takes courage. When I look back, I don't just see cartoons or silly voices. I see the steps I took to become someone I never thought I could be. I see the lonely nights I stayed up repeating words. I see the fear in my chest when I first hit record. And I see the people who said, "Cartoons? That's not real learning." But I proved them wrong. Not with big words or perfect grammar, but with heart, with patience, and with time. If you keep going, one episode, one sentence, one small goal at a time, you'll look back one day and realize how far you've come. You'll see the version of yourself you always dreamed of becoming. So, to you, the person watching this, the one who maybe feels stuck, lost, or too far behind, I just want to say, I believe in you. Even if no one else does yet. Your journey might look different. It might be slower. It might be harder. But that doesn't make it less powerful. Learning English is not just about grammar or tests. It's about opening a door to a bigger world. A world full of voices, stories, and connection. You already took the first step by listening to mine. Now it's your turn. Speak up. Make mistakes. Laugh. Learn. And never, ever give up. Because your voice matters, and the world is waiting to hear it.